You won't see the pillows. That's what makes it look like a bed.
Oh, this one. This is looking one. So go ahead. It's live.
All right. So we're back because we were told that we needed to back because it cut off on us when we came back the last time um to talk about some things. So
Sorry, it's so late. We apologize it's so late.
but this is when the kids go to sleep.
Yeah, we try to get the kids sleeping. Man, they're terrorists. They terrorize us.
Right.
So, do apologize. But to get into it, we wanted to go into why you're watching why David Chappelle is getting attacked on stage and why Chris Rock is getting attacked on stage. And please don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. All this is more and more distractions. This is their way of getting, it's their sacrifice. The reset is taking place and everyone is trying to remain relevant. In addition, they're giving a subtle way of letting people know it's an all-out attack on black men, and you can do whatever the fuck you want to do to black men. So it's a terrible thing that's going on. But no one finds it weird that David Chappelle is very rich, the funniest man in the world.
He's the king of comedy of our time.
Chris Rock, you know, easily top 5 funniest people in the world.
These are our legends.
Both, within a month, getting attacked in front of the world. No one thinks that's weird because, again, they're doing these things because they're ritualistic, and they have to do these type of things as sacrifices. Again, some sacrifices don't require death. Some sacrifices require. Oh, hi, hey, Cosmic. No, can you hear us? Okay. If you can just give us some ones, if you can hear us, okay. So, let me keep going. Some sacrifices are murders. Some sacrifices are humiliation. Some sacrifices are sexual. These particular sacrifices you're seeing are things dealing with humiliation. You can see these guys, you can see everything is people are just being embarrassed. You watch this thing going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We don't watch any of it because all of it's garbage. We know it's a distraction. But this is part of their ritualistic things. And if you're watching all these things and arguing about who's wrong and who should have fought who and whether Amber Heard is whatever, then you're stuck. Do not do that. And focus on the more important things like who's running the world. And if you look at the patterns and look at the 13 years, you're going to find a couple of things out. First thing you're going to find out is our memories are being changed and our memories are being erased. And we're doing it to ourselves once again. A part of this whole thing, how this plane that we live on works, is the things that are manifested that take place to us, we're doing to ourselves. So really quickly, if you want to know how we're erasing your memories, you erase your memories by, drum roll, your memories are being erased with the flashes of your selfies. Your selfies are fucking with your memories, and you are erasing your memories with your selfies. You're literally, your phones are literally taking your memories when it takes your memories. That flash is doing more than lighting you. It is taking your memory. So we forgot to tell you that last time because of all the flashes. Can you dig it? So who's running the world? And how do the people who control the world get control of the world? We were just trying to figure it out because of this number 13. We know that there's a 13-year pattern for who gets rewarded for these deeds and actions of these very public sacrifices. So the most obvious thing that we decided to look at was JFK.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, what's more public than JFK? So, looking at JFK, we look at the dates of the assassination. And when you're looking at these rituals, we're making sure we're trying to stay very consistent of all the things that seem to be very consistent across all the boards. And the ritual with the assassination of JFK took place in Dallas, Texas. But because he's the president, whatever takes place to the president is something that is nationwide. So we look at JFK assassination. It took place in
63.
13 years after JFK assassination. A company came into existence in 1976 by the name of
Steve Jobs.
Apple. 13 years after JFK. So, in order for you guys to have those fancy iPhones that you guys are rocking, they needed to kill your president. Wow, you're supporting JFK's murder. You are supporting the murder of John F. Kennedy. If you have an iPhone, don't feel guilty. We are connected and they got us doing so many things to ourselves. So, what happened in 1962? Well, in 1976, a company was created by the name of Apple, created by a gentleman by the name of Steve Jobs. In 1975, a company was created by the name of Microsoft in Los Alamos, New Mexico. 13 years prior to the existence of Microsoft in Los Alamos, New Mexico, founded by that lovely guy, Bill Gates, with that awesome body, lovely teeth, beautiful skin, and his breasts are amazing. Real nice guy, beautiful guy, Bill Gates. 13 years prior to 1975, in the founding of Microsoft by this character by the name of Bill Gates, was an experiment called the Trinity experiment, at which we detonated the atomic bomb for the first time in Los Alamos, New Mexico. So we then in turn used that bomb about a couple months later to do experiments in Japan called Nagasaki and Hiroshima, because that was an experiment. Because a gentleman by the name of
Oh wow! I just read something else. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm sorry.
And I was listening to you.
I apologize. Okay, but was his name Warren?
Yeah.
His name is Colonel Warren.
Stafford
Warren.
Yeah, Stafford Warren.
Stafford Warren. He was the dean of UCLA. He was a colonel. And in I do apologize because I got so many dates in my head.
Yes.
But he made a statement. I'll try to find it for you. But his name is Colonel Stafford, and he made a statement that stated that
we must test on human specimens for radiation
and plutonium with radiation
and uranium.
So this gentleman is the dean of UCLA. He's also the person who said that we have to test people by injecting plutonium and polio radiation directly into the body. In addition to that, we have to do that, and we have to keep this secret from them. And the crazy part about it is...
Yeah, here it is, 1944. The medical team of Manhattan Project, headed by Stafford Warren, concluded that a controlled experiment on humans was necessary. They came up with a plan to inject radioactive elements, including polonium, plutonium, and uranium into civilian patients around the country.
So understand that these same folks are the same ones. So he said that we had to do this. So 2 months after they created the atomic bomb that dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Colonel Stafford, the same one who said it was mandatory for us to do those tests, ended up being the exact same person to be able to go to Hiroshima and Nagasaki to do the test on the people who were victimized as a result of the radiation. So I want you to understand is if you are rocking a Microsoft computer, you are rocking Hiroshima and Nagasaki blood.
Yeah, and let me tell you the craziest part. The craziest part. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to play the video on my phone so you can hear this crazy, crazy thing. Because as I'm sitting here watching it, I'm just learning a lot of things for the first time. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm looking at Manhattan Project and I'm hearing about what happened because like thousands of people were murdered and killed. This experiment, all kinds of terrible, crazy things were happening to people that you have never seen before. And I'm thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds so familiar. And I'm like, wait a minute, Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan, right? So then I'm like, okay, now I got to start looking at freaking comic books. So me and Santana, we start looking at comic books. And we find out that they just came out with a series maybe like a few years ago, like 2019 or so.
December of 2019, at the start, simultaneously is the start of COVID, same time COVID started.
Yep. And it's called DC Comics Doomsday Clock. I don't know if you guys are into comic books, so forgive me if you guys know all of this, but they are literally writing out what's happening in these comic books and in your movies. They are showing you real events that are taking place. Now, I don't know if you guys also know about the Illuminati playing cards, but they were illustrated in 94, 95, around the same time. Matter of fact, 94 is when the peso dropped. That's when Nicole Brown Simpson happened. A lot of things happened in 94.
94 was a very hard reset.
Yeah, it was. It really was. So anyway, I'm going to play this clip just so you can hear what the story plot is of The Watchmen, okay?
Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Oh my God, Rob Core. Doomsday Clock. Oh my God, this story is so good. This first issue is everything I hoped it would be. It's an incredible start to an incredible story. I can guarantee you that. All right, so a little bit of history here. The original Watchmen comic, in a lot of ways, played out like the film. I mean, there were a lot of aspects of the film that were pretty much the same.
Oh my gosh.
Two main differences between
this is too long. This isn't the clip I did. Hold on.
2-minute clip.
Hold on 1 second.
Is that where the end of the Watchmen saw this unification of humanity, this sort of, one pact, one world kind of thing. Ultimately, by 1992, where the story kicks off, it had all gone to pot. And the reason for that was because in the original Watchmen comic, Rorschach was basically going through and he was notating everything that had happened. That was the basis of Rorschach's journal. It was documenting this whole event that was unfolding. So by the time the story came to an end and you found out that Adrian Veidt, this guy who was formerly a superhero who had turned, philanthropist and businessman, or he was the one that was originally behind it all, this was basically documented in Rorschach's journal. So at the end of the story, when Rorschach's journal was sent to the press, and the press began running this article of the fact that it was all just a giant ruse, that it was what people now refer to as the Great Lie, that society fell deeper into chaos than it was before, because now they felt like they'd been tricked, and they felt like 3 million people had been sacrificed, as opposed to, people finding a hope on their own. Now, this is cool. Jeff Johns is not really a writer.
Okay.
So that was the first edition. There's 2 more years of this where they walk you through every damn thing. They let you know that there's a nerd who lied and the whole world referred to this thing as the Great Lie because they tried this lie for the whole world, you understand? So.
And he was a philanthropist.
A philanthropist, he was so smart, and he was trying to unite
Sounds really familiar, like
That's
this guy, right?
That's weird. Everybody found out it was a great lie. He did this to the whole world. That's weird, right? Nonetheless, continue on.
So that's how we realized, wait a minute. Gates is connected to everything because you're thinking of Dr. Manhattan, and what did Dr. Manhattan get involved with? He got involved with the Vietnam War.
That's right.
He got involved. Was he there for Hiroshima too?
Yeah. So here's the thing.
I think he was there for that too.
But here's the thing. I think you need to understand that Microsoft, the sacrifice that took place in Hiroshima, paid for Microsoft Windows.
Right.
I need to understand that JFK, the president being massacred, paid for Apple. They run the world. So when you massacre the leader of the free world, you get to run the free world 13 years later.
Yeah, because they run all of this.
Well, we know they know Apple and Microsoft. They know the tech runs everything.
Everything.
And when you murder 400,000 people, civilians, with bombs after Japan has already surrendered. You know, they keep saying that Japan hadn't already surrendered, but they know goddamn well Japan had already surrendered. But whether they surrendered or not, 400,000 civilians paid for the creation of Microsoft. The same person who paid for the creation of your Corona, COVID-19, COVID, Cobra. Watch the water Cobra telling you to do this thing. And YouTube and Rumble are going to burn since they decided to say the reason why you're not allowed to say the thing that sounds like vaccine or waxine. You can't say that word because you understand that they're trying to keep this thing alive in history and they're part of it. And YouTube's going to burn to the ground. I'm going to laugh and piss on it when it's done because they want to make sure that that word don't show up because they're trying to keep it in history.
Yeah, understand that this guy is showing his new book, How to Prevent the Next Pandemic. You know, this guy seems to have all of the projections of how we're going to die. He has he's like...
You know what? He talks a whole lot about health and food and what you should eat, but looks like a piece of death.
It looks horrible. Why would you take any advice from him?
Right. First off, what can he do better than you? Can he dance better than you? Can he make love to a woman? Can he do anything? Don't take advice from that man. And do not take advice from Elon Musk. And do not let people say this man is a humanitarian. He's a buffoon and a clown. Stop pretending like Elon Musk
why is he in a picture with Ghislaine Maxwell?
I wish he was. Stop pretending this man is cool. This man is a socially awkward nerd, and he putting these people with socially awkward in front of us who've been vaccine damaged just to be able to say that they're cool and we're supposed to go along with it. No, we're not going along with it. These guys are socially awkward. They don't like being in front of people. I'm not gonna pretend like they're cool or smart. They're neither of the two. They do not help humanity.
Yeah, they are not helping you. Buying Twitter is not, you won't believe. They must disclose in order. Then they have our consent. Yes. Yes, absolutely, Robin. Absolutely. That's what it's all about. That's why.
But we're watching.
Mm-hmm.
We're watching. I don't think anyone understands that there's no such thing of good or bad. We're in a weird state. Our existence is weird. The creators, that the architects aren't what we think they are. They are not what you think they are. We are not. The people who are doing these dastardly deeds are supposed to do these things. They're supposed to do them. Remember, the people who do them don't get punished. Hitler wasn't punished. Napoleon wasn't punished. Pontius Pilate wasn't punished. No one gets punished for doing it. They're supposed to do it. It's up for the people around to make sure they don't do it. They're supposed to stop it. It's how it works. But the problem is everyone's gone too attached to these physical things and no one wants to stand up and say something's wrong anymore for fear of losing their house, their car, their job, their reputation. And that's unfortunate because these things that we're fighting to hold on to, they're not going to mean anything in a very short period of time. I mean, if you got these black men who are supposed to be A-list comedians who are made it to the top echelon, and people still have the ability to treat them like niggas in the street, you got to understand something not right with that. And David Chappelle is a smart man. He's an absolute genius. Chris Rock is a smart man who's an absolute genius. And David Chappelle knows that that attack had nothing to do with anyone trying to hurt him. That attack that happened to him was just letting him know that you can be touched. And we don't care what you do or what you plan on doing. Just remember that you can always be touched. So if I had to gamble and explain to you why someone attacked David Chappelle, I would say that David Chappelle start get going off a message and stop going against the narrative that they put in place. So they need to send somebody on stage to rush and tackle him to let him know, hey, guess what, nigga? You can be touched. So what David Chappelle should do is he should go with his instincts, tell the truth, tell all the truth, 100% of the truth, 100% of the truth David Chappelle needs to do. And he needs to remove everyone from around him except his wife and children because everyone around him is not his friend. But keep in mind, who runs the world? The tech companies. The tech companies run the world. Apple and Microsoft run the world hands down. The tech companies got their creation with the massacre and the sacrifice of 400,000 people with the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, and in turn with the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the creation of Apple. So, unfortunately, it seems as though a decision gets made as to who gets to run what based on how big the killing is. And looking at the situation, it's always the same people. And we're also finding that the people who commit these acts are being pushed to do so. Like the kids who shot up Columbine were being pushed into doing that, both psychologically and some type of medical thing, but they were being pushed into doing it because for some reason we still have to do it ourselves. They have to find a person to go and do it. These different sacrifices. For example, we know 13 years is very important. We look at September the 11th and 9/11 attack. And 13 years after that, New York City becomes the first city to be allowed to be a smart city. Well, again, we look at the killing at what was that in Connecticut?
Which one?
The children.
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook, 2012, and 13 years later, in 2025, they get remodeled and rebuilt. We look at George Zimmerman when he killed Trayvon Martin. We look at this kid a couple months ago, who killed was Dylan was you got even the kid Dylan in South Carolina, but you look at the kid who killed the guy with a machine gun just a couple months ago who was crying on a stand. Rittenhouse. These individuals aren't individuals who just decide that they're going to go out and just go and kill somebody randomly. The reason why these individuals do these things and these individuals always get away with it is because this system that we're operating under deems that these people have to get it done by the actual people, and the people administering the rules can't do it. That's the reason why these people do these things so openly in front of everyone, and that's why all of them get released. That's why none of them get convicted. That's why all of them stand in front of the judge and they hold their hand inside their pocket like this. That's why that last trial that happened between, what's the guy name again? Rittenhouse? That's why it took 2 months. So understand that they were pushed to do this because they were citizens, but they were protected by a system because they needed citizens to carry out the deed in order for the system to reap the benefits of the reward. but the reward they're reaping the benefits of are not beneficial to humanity. They're beneficial only to a demonic energy that they are feeding. So, if you want to know where the world took a turn in America, you can kind of look at, well, shit, before then, but this direction and path that America has been on has basically changed course since 1970, since the assassination of JFK, and with the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki because of the Los Alamos, New Mexico, Microsoft. So these it's sounds like a coincidence. I'm sorry we look so tired because we are tired. We had to get the kids to bed and we're sleepy and we have
And we
this
work
we
and we're
work
doing this at the same time.
and we want to we're not trying to get anything other than the information out there because right now people need to be the strongest that they've ever been, and people need to stand on their convictions harder than they've ever stood on them before ever. But it's hard when you're watching so many people lose everything, and it's hard when you're watching people die and seeing so much sadness and hurt. So the reason why it's so important that we're up looking crazy putting this information out there is because this is something that someone can put their hands on. It's something tangible that they don't need an institution or something in between them to get an answer to something to help it make sense to them.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do it and you start looking at the patterns and see how people are dying and how these massacres are taking place, you'll realize that all these deaths, one person doesn't do this. These are systematic things that
Yeah,
are taking
and
place. It's systematic.
look at the people who are the wealthiest and see what they're doing. See what they're doing. Look who is deciding what wealth is, because if you look at the television screen and you don't know anything about it, the Kardashians, that's who you want to aspire to be as a young girl. You know, you see a lot of money, you see traveling, you see beauty, you see money, you see everything.
They got the when that murder took place with Nicole Brown Simpson, that was a sacrifice, and they got that show, and in order to get the daughter on the show, they had to sacrifice her innocence with that tape with Ray
Right.
J.
And you see Ray J. Ray
Ray,
J's coming out saying that he never leaked anything. That was all a deal. That was all a deal between him, Kim, and Chris. And then they try to drag it into their new series 13 years later.
exactly.
You know, because they trying to drag it out. And Ray J's like, no, I'm a father now. I'm a businessman.
And I don't want to be linked with y'all
With
murders.
you. I'm out
I
of
don't want to
that.
be linked with the murders because
Yeah, I don't want to be in any of that.
yeah,
You know, so, you know, whatever he gave Kanye, it was not any kind of sex tapes or anything like that. Kim has had all of that stuff the whole time.
Yep.
They literally conjure up these storylines to make Kanye look like a buffoon, because Kanye thought he was saving the day and he was willing to do anything basically to look like the hero. And she's made a complete fool out of him.
So let's get to the main piece of resistance. Is that the word we say?
Sure, we can use that.
So here's what y'all better really get a handle of very, very quickly, especially if you are something called a woman. If you are a woman, you better get your shit together faster. This is 400 years. 400 years ago was the end of the last Indian nation. Their cycle had been over. 400 years. This 400-year cycle is about to end in a couple months. Something very crazy is about to happen. And depending on what you do, is going to make all the difference. You have to tell the truth, and you got to stand on your convictions, because what worked before this reset doesn't work anymore. And sitting around,
that's why you
watching,
see all this is just ridiculous.
This is why you see all these tired ass old entertainers on here looking ridiculous.
Yes.
This is why you got Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and 50 Cent all of them looking old and tired, and people just like, what's going on here? It's a geriatric Grammy show. What the hell's going on here? That's why you got these A-list actors smacking each other on stage. These old, tired
Yeah,
actors.
why didn't a crowd of people jump on Will Smith?
It's just
A
because
crowd of people jumped
you know
on
what's so
the
ridiculous about the
civilian.
whole thing? The people talk about this and they're like, wait a minute, you're talking like this wasn't an award show for actors. They act. Like, why won't people just realize these are actors? They're actors. Don't believe nothing they're saying.
Right, like I don't
Act.
know how anybody like how is anybody taking this whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing? Cause like when I'm watching that,
the public
it's like
humiliation.
when I'm looking at it though, I'm just looking at it like these people do look like two people auditioning for something.
So here's the trick. Everybody gets to point the finger at the incompetence and the buffoonery of the black man, or the overindulgence and the ferocity and the animalistic nature of the white man,
Mm-hmm.
which all of the trick, all these things are a trick. If you are a woman, you are in for a rude awakening. Women, I swear to God, you better get y'all shit together real soon, because y'all done secretly sat around and got seduced by cars and Kardashians and Real Housewives and don't realize the world has collapsed around you, women.
Yep.
Where you women in America are the only one left that ain't getting raped. Like, listen, we work at a shelter for women who are escaping violence, from who are walking on foot from Venezuela and Guatemala on foot days at a time. And the stories that you hear about what's taking place to these women are unimaginable. Yeah. I will not dare share them with you. And these same stories you're hearing with the women in India, these same stories you're hearing with the women in the Middle East, i.e., Afghanistan, Dubai, all these places. Everywhere in the world, women, y'all don't realize that they have put y'all in a cage. You think what's been done to the black man is terrible. It is horrible. But I want you to understand something. If you're a woman, please do this for me. If you are a woman, please look at some videos of Afghanistan in the 1960s and 1970s. Please, pretty please, please look at some videos of Iran in the 1960s and 1970s. Please. And watch and see what's been done to you. And understand that all of this is just a big ass trick. All these wars happen. Every time a war takes place, what ends up happening is everyone has to run, and the migrants have to go from point A to point B. And when that takes place, what ends up happening is child sex trafficking, and women being sex trafficking every time a war takes place. So women, please, don't you fucking understand that these men are creating wars just to traffic you and children? And if you're an American woman, do you not understand that every woman in the world is being subjugated in a way that you can't even imagine?
Mm-mm.
When you go and see pictures of Afghanistan in the 60s and 70s and see that the women there were dressing in mini skirts and look like women from everywhere and look like New York City, and after the war took place, now they got to go in the house and sit in the house and be in the house all day and can't go outside. And in Venezuela, you get raped, you tell the police and they do nothing. They say nothing. You understand, these places where women have no rights. Well, y'all don't understand that. The whole world has gotten this situation. That's the situation. And I think you understand and seeing enough that you're watching entire countries go to war and people being beaten, tortured, and no one's doing anything about it. So what I'm saying is, if this thing collapses, ladies, it is our responsibility as men to take care of you and protect you again. And I can assure you that we are going to subjugate the fuck out of you when this thing collapses, because we've got a lot of animosity and resentment toward how you treated us during this past last reset. You do not want men in control and protecting you, women. So I promise you, tell the truth. Ladies, women, stop bickering with each other over any and every fucking thing. It is time to cut that shit out. It is time to be adults. Women, do you realize there's men out there who cannot wait for a great explosion for this shit to fall apart so they can start snatching women and put them in their fucking basement? There's men out there who can't wait for this shit to fall apart. Do you realize that if a woman put out a restraining order against a man right now, she has to go to a court for a judge to approve her to have protection? Well, if this shit breaks down, ladies, it's going to be even worse than that. So what I'm saying is, ladies, put all your differences aside and tell the truth. Lying and pretending things are not taking place under this reset does not work. It worked 3 years ago, but things have changed. It's the reset. You keep hearing about it. It is happened. It's the reset. Stand on your convictions. Tell the truth. Don't be a part of it, because it's leading down to a road of war. And if a war takes place, think about all the people in your fucking neighborhood. And do you want to be around the men in your neighborhood if something was to take place and there was no authorities or no protection? Well, the women on the migrant caravan are being raped nightly because of the men who are there who are supposed to be protecting them. So do not grow the fuck up, women, and start telling the truth, because the last thing you want to be is protected by men. White women in particular, you gotta start telling the truth. You're gonna find in history a gentleman by the name of Tamerlane. This guy was, whoa, he was a, Jesus Christ, his goal in life initially was to try to be a descendant. He was trying to find, he was trying to be connected to the lineage of Muhammad. I'm sorry, Genghis Khan. Then he tried to be connected to the lineage of Muhammad. Maybe vice versa. I'm sorry. Nonetheless, he tried to be connected to both lineages because he was a man who didn't have a history and know where he was from. So, this man used to kidnap. He used to have imported blonde-haired, blue-eyed white women to his castles and kingdoms as sex slaves. He called them the Slavic women. The Slavic women are the ones who were the sex slaves, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white women, the Slavics. The word we get the word slaves from was the Slavic women. So black people weren't even the original slaves. The original slaves were blonde-haired, blue-eyed white women done by Tamerlane. So understand that there was a time that white women was being used as sex slaves. And with this whole Karen shit going on, where we're already starting to subjugate white American women again, when you subjugate them again, remember, you subjugate people, you're allowed to start putting them into possession and taking them into custody. But I promise you, this thing collapses. Ladies, understand it started out with white women, Slavs. They were the slaves. White women start telling the truth, all the fucking truth, because the last thing you want is a barbarian in charge of your protection. Any barbarian. So,
right.
If you could do a favor, if anything is rings true to you, please just share this information with someone you think may need it. Let people know that if you're not sure about what's going on with your government, they don't have to go and ask an official. They can just look at all the terrible major public events in America, in other countries too, but in particular America. If you want someone to look, go look at Cleveland. Look at Cleveland in the 1800s, in the 1900s, and look at Route 66. Look at I-70. Look at the railroads. Look at all the travel routes, and you're going to see that every time something gets built major, you're going to see 13 years prior a massive, massive death accompanied it. So this is something that you can see for yourself, and upon seeing so, I would hope something would help awaken in your mind or in your heart to make you say that you got to start doing something differently, because there's some things operating under some different rules that you're not aware of. And also understand that they're doing this to us without our consent. And by us doing this, we keep ourselves in a perpetual state of war and pain. So, in closing, I would like to introduce and reintroduce us to the story of Hiawatha. And I would like to introduce something that has been lost. It's something called the Great Law of Peace. Hiawatha was a great warrior, a great, 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 great warrior, great man, a great, just great. And he's a man who suffered. During the time Hiawatha was suffering, there was a great wars that were taking place. He was born into these wars. These wars were around before he was born, but he was born into them, and he grew up in these wars, and he killed many of men, and he was a warrior. The five great nations of the North American tribes that we call America today were at constant war. We won't get into how they started. That's another conversation. But they were at constant war, and during this war, um, outsiders came in and poisoned the natives. The smallpox. So little Hiawatha had to watch his three daughters all poisoned and die. And in addition to that, his wife was stolen during a raid. So another warring tribe or some enemies came in and raided the village and stole his wife. At which time he never retrieved and never saw again. Never ever found out what happened to his wife. He just stole his wife. And naturally, Hiawatha wants to tear the world down because his children were poisoned and he couldn't heal his children, and his wife was stolen, and there's a war and he's born into a war, so naturally he's going to murder the whole war. Of course that's what he's going to do. That's what I would do. But instead, Hiawatha realized something. He realized that he was in a lot of pain, and he realized that the pain that he was in was so excruciating that he didn't want to wish the pain that he was having even on his worst enemies. And it dawned on him that if he was in this type of pain and experiencing this type of pain, that his enemies were experiencing same or even greater pains than he's experiencing. So he just said at some point, all of it's got to stop. And he decided that the pain could just stop with him. And that's that's strength. That's he said the pain could stop should stop with him. So he went to all the tribes and introduced an old doctrine called the Great Treaty of Peace, at which time explained to all the warring nations that if they stopped fighting with each other, they would actually be safer under this peace treaty, and they would be more protected under this peace treaty, and no one has to die anymore. And Hiawatha was able to convince all of the five nations to all cement under one banner of peace and united under one banner of peace. The great treaty, the great law of peace, Hiawatha. And could have murdered everyone that he saw, but he chose to. At some point, it's got to stop, and all of us are fucked up, and all of us have been hurt. And what I'm saying is, Hiawatha was able to end the war by just saying, "Let it end with me." So what I'm saying is, we just say, "Let this shit end with us," because if we stopped with us, we end it. But if we continue to feed this thing. It continues on. Even if we're hurting someone else, getting our get backs and our vendettas filled in turn, it creates another monster of hurting the other side. It's a continuous thing. So he was wise enough to know that he has to stop, and it has to stop somewhere. So let it just be here. And I believe that if we make people aware that, yes, our systems are in place and they are being rewarded for sacrificing us, and they're using our consent to do so, our consent unknowingly. If we know that, then we will behave differently. And that's why we're up at night at God knows what time it is to get this information out. So I'm gonna leave with saying that Hiawatha was a straight up. That is a Hiawatha is who he Jesus Christ. I strive to be. I would like to walk in. No, fuck no, no. I don't want to. No, I don't want to walk in footsteps. But I'm just saying that's one. That's a man. That's a man there. And so if anybody want I'm gone. Can you dig it? I'm sorry if this is a little heavy tonight, but I'm tired. And we just wanted you to know that everyone sat by and watched Hiroshima and that suffering, and nobody did anything about that. That was a crime against humanity. That was a crime was against all of our international accords. It was against the Geneva Conventions, and no one did anything. And when the president of America was murdered in front of the whole world, ain't nobody do nothing about that.
They didn't even discuss how
they
he
just
died.
they just convicted one guy on the lie, and the people accepted a lie even though it made no sense.
Just
So
look at the video.
I'm just simply saying, we're simply saying, please be brave, stand up on your truth. Nothing is more powerful than truth. Nothing's more powerful than truth. Stand on your truth because a reset is taking place and truth is the strongest frequency. Don't be fearful. The people who are feel like they're compromised by the law or ages feel like you got to do certain things, you got to do nothing because the law is eating itself. And with that being said, I would like to say, hey, thank you. Who's this? Oh, Common Knowing. Thank you for oh great, Byron, Mississippi Heritage Homes. Ah, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for sticking around for this very late quiet chat. I'm sorry I look so sleepy because I am. And we will talk to you soon. And as always, let's try to be better. And can you dig it? And hey, just I'll see you guys at the shelter. Can you dig it? That's funny industry.